Midway through our journey, bandits ambushed us. My husband pushed me out and fled with his favorite concubine. In that critical moment, his scheming cousin took a knife for me. We'd battled for half our lives. Yet in the end, she died for me. With her last breath, she asked why I'd tormented her on the day I entered the estate. I had always followed the rules, never daring to overstep. Yet why, on that day, did you not only refuse to see me, but also assign me to a dilapidated courtyard overgrown with weeds? Only then did I realize it was all my husband's doing, stirring up trouble between us. He feared my noble birth would threaten the position of his true favorite. When I opened my eyes again, I had reborn to the day my cousin entered the mansion. My husband stammered. My cousin says she's delicate and wishes to stay in your sunny courtyard. I smiled faintly. The courtyard has long been prepared. I'll go welcome her myself. When I opened my eyes again, I was in the Duke's residence. My husband, Shen He, stammered. Madam, my cousin says she's too frail to come see you. Also, the physician said her condition requires regular sun exposure, so she wishes to stay in your sunny courtyard. Hearing these familiar words, I felt a wave of dizziness. I never imagined I would reincarnate back to the day my cousin entered the mansion. In my previous life, Shen He had used the same excuses, and I was furious upon hearing them. Ever since he mentioned my cousin would be staying, I'd gone to great lengths, selecting the courtyard, meticulously arranging everything. Yet not only did she refuse to pay respects to me, the mistress of the house, she demanded to live in my courtyard. This wasn't merely discourteous. It was clearly a provocation, knowing full well of the discord between Shen He and me. Yes, Shen He and I were estranged. My father is the grand tutor to the crown prince. I've been of noble birth since childhood. Shen He, however, comes from a fallen aristocratic family. Though handsome and brimming with talent, he has repeatedly faced setbacks. Our paths should never have crossed. But that spring day in the garden, when I accidentally fell into the lake, everyone on the shore shied away. Only he leaped in to save me. My clothes were soaked through, and it was he who, eyes closed, removed his outer robe to drape over me, then shivered away, dripping wet. My heart was won over by him, and I personally petitioned Her Majesty the Empress for a marriage decree. I believed this would be a blessed union. Yet for reasons unknown, after our marriage, he treated me with excessive respect but insufficient affection. I once thought our lack of intimacy stemmed from spending too little time together, believing he would come to appreciate my tenderness and consideration. Yet barely days later, Shen He announced his cousin needed to come to the capital for medical treatment due to her health. His eyes darted nervously. His ears flushed crimson as he spoke, the very picture of someone about to meet their beloved. Only then did I realize it wasn't that he felt nothing for me, but that his heart already belonged to another, his cousin. This left me seething with pent-up fury. Nowhere to vent it. Then Shen He turned around and demanded my courtyard for her. That scheming cousin. She deliberately made sure I knew her special place in Shen He's heart. That's exactly how I thought in my past life. So back then, I waved my hand and gave the courtyard, already prepared and ready, to Shen He's obscure concubine, Lady Zhou, who lived in a remote side hall and was hardly noticeable. I banished that scheming cousin to the overgrown back courtyard. Only on my deathbed did I learn my cousin never asked for the courtyard. It was all Shen He stirring up trouble. He feared my noble status would let me bully his beloved concubine. He made me believe my cousin coveted his affection. While convincing her I oppressed her with privilege, he pitted us against each other until we fought to the death. He fought until my reputation in the capital was ruined and I lost my sanity. Until my cousin's health deteriorated. And he used the opportunity to maneuver, letting his favored concubine reap the benefits like a fisherman reeling in the catch, all while earning himself a good reputation. From then on, his career soared. Alas, it took me until my death in my previous life to see through his scheming. This lifetime must be different. Recalling the final image of my cousin dying in my arms, I offered Shinhee a faint smile and said, "The courtyard is ready. I shall fetch her myself." Then, under his astonished gaze, I walked toward the gate. Shinhee was right about one thing: my cousin was delicate, appearing from afar as slender as a willow swaying in the wind. Yet this very person, who seemed as fragile as a reed, stood before me in the hour of peril. Scenes from my past life played out before my eyes. On that rainy night returning from prayers at Xiangji Temple, bandits emerged from nowhere. Guard after guard fell. We fled in panic, only to be intercepted midway. At the critical moment, Shinhee shielded his favorite concubine behind him and shoved me out with his free hand. "She's the daughter of the current grand tutor to the crown prince. Kidnap her, and you'll get a huge ransom. We're worthless. We're worthless." I froze in place, utterly stunned. "Shin Lang, you." Just the day before yesterday, he held me close, promising to send his cousin away after returning from Xiangji Temple. He also said I'd endured so much hardship lately. He explained that when his family fell on hard times, it was his cousin's family who took them in, ensuring they never wanted for food or clothing. He owed her a debt of gratitude, and no matter how unreasonable she was, I should bear with her. He vowed to make it up to me someday. And now he shows such heartless betrayal. The bandit's eyes flashed with malice upon hearing this. "And she's a noble lady? Perfect. She stays. You lot. Get out." It was then that my cousin stepped forward. She shielded me behind her and shouted at Shinhee, "Have you lost your mind? Leaving her here alone? How could she possibly survive? Even if you detest her, she is still your wife." Hearing her words, I stared at Shinhee in utter disbelief. "You despise me?" But Shinhee cared for nothing now. He snatched his favored concubine and fled. After they left, my cousin and I fought back with our lives. The bandit stabbed us 3 times. Knowing survival was impossible, my cousin still shielded me beneath her body. I still remember her, covered in blood and barely clinging to life. Yet she mustered her last breath to confront me. I always followed the rules, never daring to step out of line. But why? On that day, did you not only refuse to see me, but also arrange for me to be humiliated in that overgrown, dilapidated courtyard? Only then did I realize Shinhee had been the one sowing discord all along. But it was too late. We embraced each other in death. When I opened my eyes again, I had somehow been reborn to the day my cousin first entered the mansion. This time, I would shield my cousin with my own body and make Shinhee taste the bitter sting of being manipulated behind his back. I stepped forward, intending to greet my cousin personally, but Shinhee blocked my path. "Yue Hua, your status is exalted. My cousin is merely a merchant's daughter. How could you deign to greet her? She should come to pay her respects to you." Seeing his furrowed brow, feigning concern for me, my heart churned with disgust. In my previous life, after angrily abandoning my cousin in that dilapidated courtyard, I was filled with regret. No matter how unruly she was, she remained my husband's cousin. My actions had been utterly discourteous, so I prepared numerous gifts, intending to go to that broken courtyard and have a proper talk with my cousin. That day, Shinhee stopped me in the same manner. He spoke earnestly. "Yue Hua, the fault lies not with you, but with your cousin's arrogance and lack of restraint. Moreover, your noble birth demands decorum. To go and tear apart the facade would be beneath your station. Let me speak with her instead." I believed his words, even feeling pleased that he could discern right from wrong and consider my interests so clearly. So I let him go. The next day, my reputation as tactless had already spread. When guests arrived at the mansion, Not only were they refused an audience, but they were dismissed to the servants' quarters, a spectacle that became the capital's laughingstock. My cousin even declared she'd live in that dilapidated courtyard for the rest of her life. I suspect Shinhee seized every opportunity to slander me, determined not to let him succeed this time. I feigned understanding. After all, she is my husband's cousin. Out of love for him, I won't hold these matters against her. Seeing my resolve, Shinhee, fearing exposure, stepped forcefully in front of me. My cousin is spoiled and impudent. She not only demands your courtyard but also insists on jewels and ornaments. I didn't want to upset you, so I kept it from you. Madam, please return first. I'll bring her to pay her respects shortly. That same old line. Furious, I was about to argue further. But suddenly, my cousin's voice came from behind me. I heard my sister-in-law had already prepared a courtyard for me. Before I could even come to thank you, you came to fetch me personally. I whirled around, meeting my cousin's almond-shaped eyes, glistening with amusement. Her beauty was both delicate and alluring, breathtakingly captivating. Yet the coldness that flashed in those eyes when they met Shinhee's gaze was something only I, her rival for years, could discern. Could my cousin have reincarnated too? Before this thought could fully form in my mind, it was interrupted by the concubine Zhou standing nearby. She covered her mouth with a handkerchief and snorted lightly. My cousin certainly puts on airs, keeping our mistress waiting this long. Whose favor does she think she's writing? Newly arrived. Who could she possibly be writing? This was a jab. My cousin was writing Shinhee's favor. Spoiled by his affection. Truly Shinhee's darling. I thought inwardly. Even her tactics for sowing discord mirrored his exactly. In the past, hearing her words that seemed to stand up for me, I would have felt grateful toward her and taken the chance to snide slam my cousin. But now, I flipped my hand and slapped concubine Zhou across the face. My tone was vicious. The master hasn't spoken yet. How dare you interrupt? And whose favor are you borrowing? You, Madame Zhou, never expecting the usually gentle and dignified me to strike her, clutched her cheek in shock. So startled she didn't even notice her handkerchief had fallen. Shinhee, seeing this, immediately rushed forward to shield her. He asked, suppressing his anger, "What's wrong, madam? Why such fury? What's wrong?" I've only died once and finally seen reality clearly. I snorted coldly. But the next moment, my cousin seized my hand. Please calm your anger, cousin. Having my brother and sister-in-law wait outside for me was indeed improper. I beg your forgiveness. After speaking, my cousin glanced around. She raised an eyebrow slightly, signaling to me. I instantly understood. She feared the crowd might spread rumors and stir trouble. So I followed her lead. Family matters are no cause for offense. The wind is strong outside. Come, cousin. Let us enter the manor together. Crossing the gates of the Duke's residence, my cousin and I led the way with a retinue of maids and servants, while Shinhee and Auntie Zhou deliberately trailed a few steps behind. We passed through pavilions and corridors, past withered blossoms. Heading toward my courtyard, my cousin glanced at me several times with puzzlement, but I ignored her looks. She must be wondering why we weren't heading to the courtyard I'd prepared for her. I sighed inwardly. Though we'd both been abandoned and met tragic ends at Shinhee's hands in our past lives, my cousin still knew little of his true character. She certainly wouldn't know the schemes he orchestrated to drive a wedge between us when we first met. But it didn't matter. The truth would soon be revealed. Once inside the courtyard, I deliberately led my cousin around before asking, "Well, does this courtyard suit your taste?" My cousin frowned slightly upon hearing this. Don't joke, cousin-in-law. Though I come from a merchant family, I still understand propriety. I'm merely staying here temporarily. How could I possibly occupy the master's courtyard? After my cousin finished speaking, I immediately covered my mouth in feigned surprise and turned to Shinhee. But Shinlang, didn't you say my cousin was frail and needed constant sunlight? Wanting to stay in my sunny courtyard. What's going on now? My cousin's expression froze. And she also looked at Shinhee in confusion. Cousin, when did I ever say such a thing? Facing our dual inquiries, Shinhee showed no fluster. He lowered his gaze, offered a faint smile, and replied, Yes. That is indeed what happened. It was all my fault. The moment I heard my cousin was coming, I was so overwhelmed with joy that I wanted to prepare the finest courtyard for you. That's why I lied to the lady of the house, claiming it was your request. I was thoughtless. I hope my cousin will forgive me. I hadn't expected Shinhee to admit it so openly. It made me seem like I'd been overthinking things. Especially that line about being overwhelmed with joy upon learning of my visit, which completely absolved him of any blame. If my cousin already harbored feelings for him, this whole affair would truly be like shooting myself in the foot. But I wouldn't play into his hands. I pressed on. Yet Shinlang also said my cousin is spoiled and rude, demanding not only my courtyard but also jewels and ornaments. What? Was that also spoken in a moment of recklessness? What? My cousin said such things? Facing my cousin's utterly shocked gaze, Shinhee turned away uncomfortably. Then after a long pause explained. It's because, just days ago, Madam was still arguing fiercely with me over which courtyard my cousin should occupy. Today, her stance shifted abruptly. I feared Madam might harbor some misunderstanding about my cousin and spoke rashly. I gave a cold laugh, my gaze sweeping toward Auntie Zhou. Oh, is that all it was? Shinlang? I'd thought you deliberately stirred up conflict between me and my cousin, harboring ulterior motives. At these words, concubine Zhou paled visibly. My cousin remained silent, her face set in a grim expression. Shinhee, however, fixed his gaze on me and murmured, What do you mean by ulterior motives? What exactly is the mistress implying? Seeing his reaction, I actually chuckled lightly. Nothing at all. Why so sensitive? Shinlang? I was merely joking. Hearing my words, Shinhee's tense expression finally eased. Auntie Zhou also exhaled softly. Only my cousin, her eyes burned with hatred as she looked at Shinhee. Now she must understand why. In her previous life when she first entered the estate, I had her stay in that overgrown backyard. My goal was achieved. I turned my attention back to the unresolved matter of the courtyard. Now that we've realized that approach was inappropriate, where does young Master Shin think my cousin should live? The moment I asked, Shinhee's newly settled heart began to race again. Privately, he hoped my cousin and I would clash as we had in our past life, so he could hand the courtyard over to concubine Zhou. After all, that was the arrangement he'd made with her. In secret, consort Zhou had been arranging things for who knows how long. Every blade of grass and tree in that courtyard was likely the result of her meticulous planning. But who could have predicted I'd suddenly change my ways? Not only did I not cause a scene as he'd planned, I nearly exposed his scheme. Now, all he could do was grit his teeth and say, Didn't the lady prepare a separate courtyard for my cousin? Perhaps she should stay there instead. As Shinhee finished speaking, Mistress Zhou's eyes instantly welled with tears. She stubbornly turned her face away. I curved my lips into a smile. That's more like it. In my past life, you schemed and plotted, trampling on my cousins and my reputation to move into the courtyard I had prepared for her, enjoying blessings you never deserved. This lifetime, I intend to reclaim what is rightfully mine. In the end, my cousin moved into the courtyard I had chosen for her. Though called a separate courtyard, it was arranged with exceptional elegance. A crabapple tree stood in the center, its blossoms now in full, vibrant bloom. Sunlight spilled through, making the scene exceptionally beautiful. Yet, Someone had to spoil the atmosphere. While everyone was busy tidying up, Auntie Jo secretly stroked the white chrysanthemums on the windowsill, reluctant to leave them behind. My cousin and I exchanged a glance, instantly understanding. In her past life, Auntie Jo had adored white chrysanthemums, filling her courtyard with them. Shinhee had often praised her for being as serene as a chrysanthemum, never vying for attention. This must be the flower she had carefully chosen as her beloved. My cousin, already in a sour mood, remarked upon seeing this. The courtyard my sister-in-law prepared for me is splendid, especially with the crabapple trees in full bloom. The garden's spring splendor is undeniable. Yet these white flowers on the windowsill seem utterly out of place. I immediately interjected. These were arranged by the servants. Their taste is shallow, what do they know of beauty? But since you're here, consider this your home. You may decide how to handle every ornament in this courtyard. Wouldn't you agree? Shinlang? Shinhee responded with an unnatural smile. Precisely. Cousin, you decide. With his approval, my cousin, with my assistance, proceeded to replace nearly every ornament in the room that Auntie Jo had meticulously selected. Why is this tea set blue and white porcelain? I'm accustomed to white glaze. Why is this bedspread shoe embroidery? I prefer Sue embroidery. And why is there a kite on the cabinet? With each remark from my cousin, Lady Zhou's face darkened further. This tea set was a gift from Shinhee. The bedspread was embroidered by her own hands. And the kite was painted together with Shinhee, hand in hand. Yet now, with my cousin's simple command, throw it away, they were tossed out like trash. She didn't even dare to try saving them. Watching Aunt Zhou and Shinhee exchange sorrowful, heartbroken glances in secret, I nearly laughed out loud. This is nothing yet, your good days are still ahead. Once my cousin was settled in, Shinhee and Aunt Zhou hurried away, probably because another glance would make them burst into tears. Only when we were left alone did my cousin drop her guard, plopping down onto a chair. I used to think my cousin was just clinging to life, blaming him for lacking responsibility and abandoning us both at a critical moment. I never imagined he was this kind of person. When we first met in my past life, I blamed and accused you, but it was all his scheming? Why would my cousin do such a thing? Watching my cousin's dazed and disoriented state, I sneered coldly. What else could it be? Of course. He wanted to reap the benefits while we fought like the clam and the snapping turtle. My cousin gritted her teeth and retorted sarcastically. Concubine Zhou? Could she possibly match my lavish investments in paving his path? Or your efforts in elevating him from a commoner to his current position as a military commander? I raised an eyebrow, smiling. Cousin, you may think that. But Shinhee doesn't. He never regarded our sacrifices as genuine devotion. He believes every step was his own scheming, even concubine Zhou's role was part of his plan. At this, my cousin sighed. It's my own foolishness for not seeing through him. I actually believed he genuinely wanted to marry me. Hearing this, my eyes widened. What? Shinhee actually said he'd marry you? He only ever said he regarded you as a sister, indebted to your family's kindness. Before going to Xiangji Temple in my past life, he even planned to send you away. My cousin snorted coldly. Sister? What sister would willingly spend a fortune to pave his path? He merely claimed his position was unstable now, while your status was exalted. He feared proposing now would put you in a difficult position. He planned to ask for my hand as a co-wife after the Dragon Boat Festival, when his rank would rise further. But before that day came, we both met a tragic end. My thoughts drifted far away. Tell me, I asked. Did he say the same thing to Consort Zhou? My cousin lowered her eyelids. What difference does it make if he did or didn't? Didn't we both know in our past life? Shinhee abandoned us both and ran off with Consort Zhou. I chuckled. We know. But consort Zhou doesn't. She already fears my noble status. Now with a fabulously wealthy cousin like me around. Don't you think she's terrified? If her fear drives her to do something foolish. My cousin instantly grasped my meaning. He should taste the sting of betrayal from his beloved. I said. Exactly. With the Dragon Boat Festival approaching and Shinhe's promotion imminent. It's time to put a little poison in Auntie Zhou's tea. For the next few days, I summoned Auntie Zhou daily to attend to me. Meanwhile, Shinhe was preoccupied mending fences with his cousin over the courtyard incident. This actually made our plan easier. I heard that after I slapped her that day, consort Zhou returned to Shinhe's embrace, sobbing bitterly about her grievances. Shinhe urged her to endure it. Seeing how I tormented her day after day, the look on her face now showed she'd reached her limit. My cousin and I exchanged a knowing glance. The time had come. That very day, my cousin cornered Shinhe behind the rockery. Cousin, you said you'd marry me. Is that truly your heart's desire? Shinhe's deep voice echoed. It is indeed true. My cousin has always considered my best interests. To marry such a virtuous wife would be my honor. But when does my cousin plan to marry me? Yunshu has waited long enough. I came here immediately upon receiving your letter. Shinhe paused, stepped forward, and took my cousin's hand, uttering words identical to those from my past life. I too wish to marry you, cousin. But Jiang Yuehua's status is now exalted, and I cannot bear to see you become a concubine. However, thanks to the rare South Sea pearl you purchased at great expense from the South Sea days ago, the lady of the Prime Minister's mansion was greatly pleased. Once I present it during the Dragon Boat Festival, my official rank should be elevated. The Prime Minister's household has always been at odds with the Grand Tutor to the Crown Prince. Once that happens, I'll no longer be held hostage by Jiang Yuehua. Then I can propose marrying you as my equal wife. What do you say? Hearing this, his cousin naturally appeared overjoyed. Really? Then Yunshu will wait for you, cousin. But then, as if remembering something, her face clouded over. Though her cousin spoke these words, Yunshu felt an emptiness in her heart. She pointed to the jade pendant Shinhe always wore close to his heart and said, "Would it not be fitting for you to give me this jade pendant as a token of our affection?" Shinhe stroked the pendant, wrestling with himself for a long moment before finally unfastening it and handing it to his cousin. If it could ease her mind, so be it. He was certain she shared his resolve and would keep it strictly confidential. Once he secured his promotion and gained confidence, he could manipulate the situation with a single word. Alas, in all his scheming, he failed to foresee that his cousin had already shifted allegiance. Within half a day, the entire household knew Shinhe intended to marry his cousin. When this news reached Lady Zhou's ears, rage made her eyes bulge. That very evening, servants reported Shinhe had been summoned by concubine Zhou before even entering his courtyard. While I endure your legitimate wife's torment up front, you're secretly conspiring with that seductive cousin behind my back. You claimed bringing her here would distract the mistress and spare me hardship. All lies. I see you've set your sights on her. Faced with Lady Zhou's wailing, Shinhe felt nothing but a headache. Lower your voice. Do you want the entire household to know I brought my cousin here with ulterior motives? So what if they know? I'd love for everyone to find out. It's better than you marrying her. Having the daughter of a grand tutor with her exalted status is bad enough. Adding the daughter of a wealthy merchant? How am I supposed to live with that? Shinhe sighed, utterly exhausted. You know perfectly well I'm using them both. Stop listening to those rumors outside. Stay quietly in the inner courtyard and keep a low profile. Once everything is settled in a few days, you'll have a respectable life. Such promises would have been believable to concubine Zhou under normal circumstances. But just days ago, Shinhe had sworn he'd move her into the new courtyard. Not only did she not get to live there, she ended up with 2 slaps across her face. She began to doubt Shinhee's sincerity. Master Shin, do you truly love me? I'm so afraid. Woo-woo. Zhou's weeping stirred Shinhee's pity once more. He hurriedly embraced her. How could I not love you? My entire heart belongs to you. I know you've suffered wrongs lately. And it pains me too. But... Shinhee gritted his teeth, his gaze darkening. My position is lowly now. Though I hold the title of commandant, I wield no real power. I must still rely on others' influence and am constantly held hostage by their schemes. Once I join the Prime Minister's household and truly seize real authority, I will make you the mistress of this entire estate. Shinhee's unusual gaze frightened concubine Zhou. Yet she also felt a flicker of excitement. She understood his meaning and whispered softly. Are you serious? Lord Shin? Shinhee nodded and smiled. Of course. You are the one I truly wish to marry. As for the others, they are merely stepping stones for me. Shinhee's words filled concubine Zhou with immense joy. She shyly threw herself into his embrace, and the two remained in a passionate embrace for quite some time. When this news reached my ears and my cousins, it was so revolting we nearly couldn't finish our tea. Shinhee had some nerve, daring to make consort Zhou the mistress of this household. Did he think we were dead? I set my teacup down gently, my gaze meeting my cousin's through the candlelight. Who knows? Shinhee might just have the power to make consort Zhou the mistress of this house. My cousin's eyes widened in shock. Could it be those bandits from my past life? No. 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 I saw Shinhee's expression clearly. He was terrified. It couldn't possibly be him. I shook my head. We must find someone to investigate. In my past life, we both died after the Dragon Boat Festival. By then, Shinhee no longer needed me and certainly wouldn't have endured it. And judging by his words now, he likely planned this long ago. My cousin snorted coldly. He won't get his wish. Tomorrow is Dragon Boat Festival. I've waited long enough for this grand gift. Just wait and see the show. He'd better not damage the South Sea pearl I spent a fortune shipping all the way from the South Sea. I chuckled softly. Then it must be. Even so, doubts lingered in my heart. Are you certain this will work? Consort Zhou isn't stupid. My cousin covered her mouth with a handkerchief and laughed. That depends on how you fan the flames. Early the next morning, when Auntie Zhou came to pay her respects in my courtyard, I brought up the recent rumors. Judging by Master Shin's recent actions, it seems the household may be welcoming a new lady. Auntie Zhou was naturally brimming with confidence. In my humble opinion, it might just be Miss Cousin's one-sided affection. Even if she throws herself at him, it's far from certain. I feigned surprise. How could that be? They've exchanged tokens of affection. Haven't you seen the lotus jade pendant on my cousin? At this, Aunt Zhou was so startled she knocked over her teacup. What? The lotus jade pendant? That one. I nodded. The very one Shenlang has worn for years. When it comes to childhood sweethearts, no one compares to my cousin. Seeing Aunt Zhou's pale face, I tactfully urged her to retire. But as she reached the doorway, I overheard maids sweeping the corridor whispering, "Is he really marrying the cousin?" Of course. They've exchanged tokens, and the rumors are running wild. Seeing no one nearby, she lowered her voice. You think Miss Shin is from some lowly family like Auntie Zhou's? Easy to manipulate? Come to think of it, Miss Shin comes from a distinguished family. Marrying her would bring nothing but benefits. Why wouldn't he? That's true. Hearing this, Consort Zhou's already uneasy heart burned like fire. She hurried straight to Shinhee's quarters. Upon reaching the courtyard, she didn't see Shinhee, but instead spotted a servant from the storeroom carrying a gift box to find him. Consort Zhou intercepted the box. What's this? Open it. The servant dared not refuse. Opening the box, they revealed it filled to the brim with southern pearls. Seeing these feminine trinkets, Consort Zhou's heart lurched. She demanded, "Where did this come from?" The servant replied, "It's from the young lady." Those 3 words, "the young lady," felt like a dagger piercing Consort Zhou's heart. Before the servant could finish, she couldn't contain herself any longer and bellowed, "Enough! Cousin! Always the cousin! Hand it over. I'll take it to the master myself." The servant hesitated briefly before replying. "The master said this item is of great importance. Only he and the cousin may touch it." Furious, Consort Zhou raised her hand and slapped the servant across the face. "How dare you? Do you think I'm some easy-to-manipulate concubine? You dare disobey my orders." Seeing this, the servant hastily handed the box to her, clutching his swollen cheek as he retreated. At that very moment, Shinhe arrived at my courtyard, his face beaming. Dressed in a dark blue open-fronted robe, he radiated self-satisfaction. "Madam, today is the Dragon Boat Festival. But unfortunately, I have matters to attend to at court. I'm afraid I cannot keep you company." His tone was dismissive, utterly lacking his usual reserved humility. In the past, if he couldn't accompany me on such a festival, he would have explained the reason, presented gifts, and indulged in sweet affection. This was him taking it for granted that things would go his way, no longer regarding me with respect. I stepped forward to adjust his robe and smiled. "If you have duties, my lord, then attend to them." Not only that, I escorted him all the way to the main gate. Shinhe's lips curved upward, clearly pleased with my tact. Having fallen from being a noble young master to the depths of disgrace, his pride had suffered a severe blow. Though he was now with me, he always felt I held an advantage over him. He craved the feeling of me groveling before him in front of the servants. This intoxicating sensation lulled him into complacency. A man usually so cautious. This time he hadn't even opened the gifts he'd brought. He could never have imagined what awaited him upon his return. At noon, the sound of horses reining up echoed at the gate. Servants rushed over, panting and trembling. "Madam! Madam! Hurry! Lord Shin is trying to kill our cousin." I smoothed my robes. "Why the panic? Let me go see." When I arrived, Shinhe was choking my cousin with bloodshot eyes. "Why did you do this?" he screamed. "Do you have any idea how important today was to me?" He assumed only he and my cousin had touched the box of South Sea pearls, convinced she was taking revenge for past grievances. My cousin wept, her tears falling like pear blossoms. "How could you think this of me, cousin? I always consider your interests above all else." I rushed forward to pull him away. "What has happened? Shenlang? Release her first, and we'll discuss this calmly." "Guilty." Shinhe dared not explain the truth. I could only kick his attendant. "Are you dead? Speak up." The guard, petrified, stammered out the day's events. It turned out Chancellor Liu, elated at having won Shinhe over from my father's side, had been told by Shinhe about the lavishly purchased South Sea pearl. Both were eager to flaunt it before everyone. But when the Chancellor's wife opened it before all eyes, inside lay a dead snake. The minister's wife fainted on the spot. Not only did Shinhe's scheme fail, but Lu Xiang now believed he'd been deliberately targeted by my father. All his plans were ruined. Not only had he offended Lu Xiang, but if word reached my father, it would effectively end his career. Shinhe wouldn't let it rest. He vowed to uncover the mastermind behind it all. His investigation eventually led him to Lady Zhou. When the storeroom staff mentioned that Lady Zhou had taken the box away, Shinhe refused to believe it. But when he pushed open the door, Lady Zhou was sitting on the bed, her face stern, waiting for him. The dazzling South Sea pearls were laid out on the table. Shinhe snatched the pearls and demanded in disbelief, "You really swapped these?" Madame Zhou didn't back down. What? Did I scare your lover? Shinhee choked on his breath, nearly suffocating. What lover? Do you know what you're saying? You've ruined my plans. Madame Zhou lost her temper too, convinced these pearls were meant for Shinhee to give to his cousin. She shouted. Yes. I ruined your marriage to Shin Yunshu. The Shin family is fabulously wealthy, you must be thrilled. Spending a fortune on such rare treasures just to please a beauty. After hearing this, Shinhee had only one thought. This fool. He's still fixated on that romantic nonsense. I risked everything to protect her, maneuvering between my cousin and myself, saying every sweet word to keep her safe. He schemed relentlessly, guarding against me and my cousin, finally achieving his goal only to be defeated by her in the end. A wave of desolation washed over him. Yet concubine Zhou only poured fuel on the fire. What? Why are you silent now? I hit a nerve. Didn't I? You can't keep up the act anymore. Can you? Now you dare question me for her sake. Seeing her foolishness, Shinhee closed his eyes. Only now did he realize they were fundamentally different people. Concubine Zhou simply couldn't and never would understand him. Realizing this, Shinhee had no desire to say more. He turned and walked away. No matter how much consort Zhou wailed and cried, he never looked back. From that day onward, Shinhee reversed his attitude and showered me with attentions. Yet even so, it couldn't stem the tide of harassment from various factions within the bureaucracy. Outside, rumors swirled like wildfire. Shinhee was already proud by nature. This situation was more agonizing than death itself. My cousin smiled and asked me if I felt vindicated, gazing at the courtyard filled with crabapple blossoms. I replied, vindicated? Only when he meets the same fate as us in our past life would that truly be satisfying. As I spoke, another thought occurred to me. Now that Shinhee is utterly ruined, what are your plans? My cousin's expression shifted slightly. Once I believed Shinhee and I shared mutual affection. When love first blossomed, I dreamed of marrying him. Later, I learned he had used me. And in the end, I died a miserable death. Now, my heart is clear. I realize spending a lifetime with you, sipping tea and admiring flowers, is truly wonderful. I smiled. Truly? My cousin's expression was unwavering. Truly. To be honest, before coming here, I had heard your name, the foremost scholar lady of the capital. Even then, I longed for you. In my past life, I was manipulated into opposing you. To be by your side in this life is a blessing. I lowered my brows and smiled. If that's the case, then let's use Shinhee once more. We'll secure you a proper status and welcome you into our home with honor and splendor. So, when Shinhee came to chat with me again, I brought up the matter of him and my cousin. Shinhee remained impassive. Whatever you say, madam. This arrangement offered him nothing but advantages, perhaps even a chance to turn the tables, so naturally he agreed. But when the news reached Consort Zhou's ears, she went mad with fury, demanding to see Shinhee. Exasperated by her persistence, Shinhee finally went to meet her. The moment they met, concubine Zhou blurted out impatiently. Did you intend to marry Shin Yunshu from the very beginning? That was your goal, wasn't it? You deceived me after all. Shinhee felt no lingering affection for her and saw no point in explaining. His tone was cold and detached. Think whatever you wish. Such indifference only fueled concubine Zhou's fury. And she blurted out, don't you think I'll let you have your way? I'm trapped in this little courtyard while you roam freely with women on both arms. Don't forget, I know your secrets. If Shin Yunshu finds out you used her, guess what she'll think? And Jiang Yuehua, if she learns that first meeting was your meticulous scheme, do you think she'll let you off? Faced with the raving Madame Zhou, Shinhee could no longer restrain himself and struck her hard across the face. You've lost your mind. Unexpectedly. That single blow caused Madame Zhou to miscarry. When I received the news, the physician had already entered the room. Basin after basin of bloody water was carried out. All we could hear was concubine Zhou screaming hoarsely. Save me! Save me! My child! That was my child with Master Shin. Shin he stood outside, pale-faced. His hands clenched tightly. A quarter of an hour later, the doctor emerged covered in blood, shaking his head at us. Shin he staggered slightly, a faint, ambiguous smile playing on his lips. I thought to myself, what a fitting retribution. After regaining consciousness and learning her child was lost, concubine Zhou fell gravely ill. She grew quiet afterward and never left her quarters again. Shin he did visit her from time to time, but their relationship was no longer what it once was. This continued until the days leading up to Shinhee's wedding to his cousin. Concubine Zhou sent word that she intended to go to Xiangji Temple to pray for the child's soul. Hearing that name sent an inexplicable chill through me. My cousin, standing beside me, clasped my hand and said, "Let her go. It has nothing to do with us." Shinhee had initially agreed, but when consort Zhou leaned pale against the carriage, calling out to Shinlang before her departure, his resolve softened. He whispered to me, "I'll see her off and return soon." With that, he hurriedly followed Auntie Zhou into the carriage. Little did we know that once he left, he would never return. When the authorities found us, they said Shinhee and Auntie Zhou had been ambushed by bandits on the road. Both had been stabbed multiple times. Their deaths gruesome. When I heard the news, I suddenly felt a weight lift from my shoulders. My cousin, however, remained calm, as if she had known all along. That evening, she brought a thick stack of interrogation records to my room. The flickering candlelight cast shifting shadows across her face. "You must have guessed by now," she said. "Those bandits were hired by Auntie Zhou." Truthfully, I'd been investigating since you first suggested looking into Cha-Cha. But I never found the truth. It wasn't until a few days before Lady Zhou mentioned going to Xiangji Temple that I learned she'd given all her family's assets to a brother from her maternal family. I had someone procure his portrait and only then discovered the truth. I replied, "She must have wanted to die long ago." My cousin nodded. Madame Zhou truly loved Shinhee. She'd rather die together than accept his indifference. Gazing at the star-filled sky beyond the window, I sighed. Karma is inescapable. Shinhee never imagined that after dedicating his life to securing Madame Zhou's future, he'd ultimately perish by her hand. But with this great vengeance fulfilled in this lifetime, we've achieved a measure of closure. My cousin smiled softly, her hand resting gently on mine. Being with you is perfection. Outside the window, the begonia blossoms bloomed within the courtyard. The sky was filled with stars. Hand in hand, we stood amidst heaven and earth. Time was gentle, and the moment was perfect. The end.